Okay, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. Hi everyone. Welcome to this first ever Artist Insights. I'm Vonnart, and today I'm joined by the wonderful and the spooky ooky Babs Webb.
Hi. I'm Babs Webb.
Oh yes, we're going to get to know you very well very shortly. If you want to go follow her, I put her Instagram and her shop below. I actually think I also put your YouTube now that you're doing YouTube videos. So if any of you are interested, you should check that out. Especially after watching this, I'm sure you'll get a few more people because you working with powdered graphite is something even I'm curious about learning more about. And if the people that usually come to my streams are interested in pencil, I'm sure they'll be interested in powdered graphite. So I'm very excited to have you on. And you are my first ever Artist Insight guest. I hope you know.
I do know, and I'm very nervous, but I'm also very excited to be here.
Oh, you're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. So if you have a question specifically for Babs during the stream, just put @Vonnart, because I'm gonna act as the curator and moderator for Babs, and I'm gonna have her do most of the talking, and I'm just gonna butt in every now and then. But to start off, and people are joining in, I'm gonna officially light our candles to get this going and ready. There we go. It's the most dramatic match I've ever had, and it's beyond satisfying.
I mean, those are goals. Those are candle goals.
I couldn't even light the candle. Okay, we're going to try to redo that as I'm talking about how satisfying it is. Oh my goodness.
Toothy.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, to start off, before we get into any big questions, could you just give a brief description of who you are and how you got to be where you are now?
Yeah, so I'm an independent artist living in Denver, Colorado. I specialize in just kind of subtle horror. I wouldn't say it's like in your face, there's no gore, nothing like that. It's more psychological, mixed with fantasy elements in there. I studied art. I've never done anything else. I don't think I could ever do anything else. And yeah, I really don't, Tim.
I'm sure you would excel at whatever you put your mind to. All right, well, I guess we'll just start jumping into some of the questions because I think people will also agree with me by the end of this that you are a very special person and you are very driven, at least from what I've seen, what you've projected. Maybe it's a complete con and you're scamming me, but you always seem very genuine, and I always am delighted to be around you because you are one of the few people that can make me laugh all the time. I don't even think you know this about yourself. I'm not hard to make laugh, but I would definitely say there's a type of humor that just tickles my funny bone, and you get it so well. You're so good at it.
I don't know if that's a compliment, because I don't know if I try to make you laugh.
Babs is like, well, that's not really a compliment, considering you have the worst humor.
Well, it's hard for me to be serious, so usually to ease tensions when I feel awkward, I just try to make people laugh with me instead of at me.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, where's that first question?
Okay.
I'm hungry for these questions.
Are you ready? So we're going to dive into the way that I'm going to structure this. I already told Babs beforehand, but I sent her a bunch of questions before that we were going to kind of discuss, and then there are specific ones where she'll show some of her older work and kind of show how she's progressed over the years. And then I'm going to ask some of the Instagram ones that I got this past week, and then we're going to open the floor. So I will keep writing any new ones that you guys have in case you're worried that I'll miss it, so don't worry. I am a pretty fast typer, and I have my finger and keyboard ready to go. So, to start off, Babs, growing up, when did art seem to grab your attention?
I'd say as early as I can remember. So, I lived in like the outskirts of a Texas city, San Antonio, Texas, and was very rural when we first moved there, so there wasn't a lot of kids around us. So art was just like this thing that I would do to pass the time because, there wasn't a lot of people to interact with. And I think that it just made me realize that with art, you could literally do or be with whatever you wanted. You could make your own friends, you could make your own worlds, and that was really appealing to me because I think if there's like anything in my life that defines me, it's this like really insatiable craving for escapism. And I know that sounds a little depressing, but it's not.
Oh, no, that was poetic.
It's just, like when you're not satisfied with reality and you just want something a little more.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. And I think that's a lot of artists when we grow up maybe in a situation where we don't want to be in, we turn to art to create the world we do want to kind of invest our time in.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to dive deep now because I want to see some work from your past. So if you could explain the pieces you're going to show and how long ago you did them, and let's start with the oldest that you can find up until more recent ones.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
It's going to be a journey. So this first piece that I'm showing you is the earliest one that I could find. I wish I could find ones from like elementary school.
Yeah.
When I was in elementary school, I was obsessed with drawing a school of fish, which was like fish in a classroom. I thought I was so witty. I thought I was so intelligent. But
I mean, I still find it funny.
I remember I drew it in the 8th grade when I was in detention. Because when I was in the 8th grade, that was like my first taste of being a rebel, and I was all about it.
Can I ask what you did?
What's that?
Can I ask what you did?
I don't even remember. Oh. I probably just talked back to a teacher, but like in the weeniest way possible. Like, I don't want to do this assignment. Math is dumb. I thought I was a rebel, but I was still a real weenie. But this, I wish I could tell you exactly what this is. I know it's like a monster.
Yeah.
I used to always draw monsters, but I think it's like supposed to be like a dog.
Oh, I definitely see it. It's like stitched together.
Yeah, I thought I was real edgy with all the stitching. So I've always had a dark side. Although I would say that when I was younger, I didn't really understand subtlety at all. So it was like 100% all the time. Which just made it real cheesy.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing.
I feel like I've evolved. And then this piece, this is from when I was a sophomore in high school, where I finally learned a bit of subtlety. So I feel like that's a defining piece for like starting to go into the direction of subtlety. But as you can see, it's still like super wannabe edgy. Like the stitching and the blood on her chest. I mean, I don't know. I was trying real hard.
What's the HS?
So this actually stands for Helter Skelter. Oh. But I didn't understand what it meant, obviously. Does this woman look like she wants to be a part of a race war? I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe she does. I don't know.
Fem in the comments said, "So I've always had a dark side, said in the cutest way." That to me, that's Babs right there.
And then this piece is actually still for sale. This piece is from 5 years ago. It's the oldest one in my current inventory, and it's probably a defining piece because this is when I started to. Oh no, wait. No, it's this one, sorry. This one's coming next.
I was going to say, that was quite the jump. We went from Helter Skelter to, like, current work.
This one's huge. But this one's from college. And this is the first piece where I started to move into, like, the aesthetics that I do to this day. God, what was the name of this piece? I can't even remember. But this was like kind of the piece that put me on the path that I am today.
Yeah, I can
because
definitely see
in college, I was like all over the place. I had no idea what I wanted. And I had so many different styles that I was trying to tackle. And none of them were working. And then this one was a style where it finally felt like it was me. It wasn't just an imitation or me trying to be something that I wasn't. Like, this was me. And that was important. And now we're going to the piece that's like the oldest piece in my current inventory, which is Everything You Hate. And I would say this piece is important. That's the name of the piece, man.
Oh, people are asking how old were you for each of these? So the last one was in college, and then so when did you do?
So college I was 21. Mm-hmm. And then for the Helter Skelter piece, I think I was 14, 15, around there. And then the Monster Dog, I believe I was, 8th grade. So probably like 12, 13.
Yeah.
Around there. And this piece, I was like 22.
Oh, so this is pretty recent after the last one.
Yeah. Wow. That one started me on the path of where I'm still going towards to this day, but this is still before I started doing powdered graphite. So
what?
The original of this piece, because I used to edit my work a lot in Photoshop before I did a lot of powdered graphite, because it was so hard to get it dark. So this one actually has a gray overlay over the pencil to give it like that full gray gradation. Because it was like it was just cross hatching. You can see it. Oh my and then I added the gray over it in Photoshop. And I didn't start doing powdered graphite until probably like 3 or 4 years ago. So powdered graphite, I'm still kind of new at it.
Okay.
But it's definitely my medium. It's the thing that I like really, it's just so satisfying. And then this piece, this one is from 2017. And this one's also still in my inventory. This is also before powdered graphite, but it's when I started using Bristol paper. Because before this, I would literally just use whatever paper I could find. I was trying really hard to be a freelancer right out of college, even though I had no business doing it. So I was always broke. And I feel like that's why graphite was so important to me, because it was such a cheap medium to do. So it was really more out of necessity now that I think about it. Because before I got really into graphite, I was a painter, actually. I used a lot of wet medium like acrylics and watercolors and stuff like that.
Oh, you did watercolor?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen any of your watercolor stuff.
I mean, I haven't done it in a long time. long time. But
while we're on the topic, though, could you also say why the Bristol paper is so, like, you switched that over normal paper?
So I would say with the Bristol paper, because I'm sure you feel the same way, when you work with graphite, the texture of the paper is really, really important, because it defines how the graphite works and how dark it gets and how easy it is to smooth. So Bristol's kind of a really easy go-to because, I mean, I don't know what Bristol's made for, but it feels like it's made for graphite because graphite reacts so well to it. And it's so easy to work with. And there's also a lot of different types of Bristol, so there's still room for experimentation. And, it's a heavyweight paper. It's higher quality. And it just looks nicer when you put that,
It leaves a little bit of texture. On
Bristol. Yeah.
Well, I guess not in your case where it's like solid black graphite in certain areas, but that's what looks so good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really like Bristol, but there's a lot of other different papers you could use. I would just stay away from watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is not good for graphite. Not for the type of work that I do.
It's
because I feel like I focus so much on smoothing my graphite. And it just doesn't work when I try to use watercolor paper. It's too toothy.
Yeah, I agree.
Even the hot pressed watercolor paper.
I totally agree. I know I kind of found comfort with the mixed media. I should try Bristol more, though.
I'm actually experimenting with the new Bristol right now. With the vellum.
Oh.
It's harder to work with, I would say. Because the vellum texture, it makes the paper almost like soft. But it's really easy to get it dark. That's why I wanted to get into it, because the vellum's so good at absorbing that graphite, but it's also really hard to smooth it out because it is a little toothier.
I guess for those who are watching and don't know what that means, what does toothy mean for paper?
So I don't know if I'm using that term correctly, but toothy just means how textured the paper is. Mm-hmm. So like the more texture on it, the toothier it is. So like watercolor paper is usually really textured, so it's really toothy. I don't know if I'm using that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I use it, unless we're both saying it wrong. And then, or you go.
Oh, no.
Oh, I was going to say, do you have your most current piece that you've done that you can show as well?
Yeah. Let me go get it.
No problem. And those who are watching, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. She is, she's so funny. I was bragging about when I met you in person. I remember I knew of your work beforehand, and I went to your booth at C2E2, and you had such this like macabre, like haunted house in a booth presentation aesthetic. And I was like, oh no, I hope I don't think I'm that cool. So meeting you, I was like, I hope I am cool enough to talk to her. And then from that point forward, I guess talking with you, I'm like, no, we are like one and the same. Like our personalities get along so well. Because I think some people think I'm very serious because my work sometimes has that, gaudy, grandiose look to it. But then when they get to know me, they're like, oh, you're really silly and you're kind of like naive and grounded in a lot of ways. I'm like, yeah, that suits me pretty well. So then meeting you and finding out that we have that same, where people I think expect something, and then you find out you're just like a really genuine, fun person. It was good.
I'm not gonna lie, meeting you made me feel so special.
What?
Because, yeah. Oh my God, Timothy, do you not know how famous you are?
Get out of here.
People in the comments, go ahead, let him know.
No, please
don't. But I remember at C2E2, I was walking around with Dave before the show started, and we walked by your booth, and I was like, that's it, man. That's it. Like, that's the aesthetic I want. Look at the quality of his prints. So good. And I just like, I didn't even know your work before then, though, because I live under a rock. Many rocks, actually. Many layers of sediment. So I remember when you came over to my booth and you were like, I love your work. Let's do an art trade. And you gave me your beautiful gilded sketchbook. And you took one of my really terrible FedEx Xerox prints.
I wanted you to like me so bad. It's like, take the most valuable thing I have on my booth because I want to be your friend.
Well, I was pretty flattered. I was like, ooh, this guy knows how to make friends.
I'd buy friendships.
I mean, I'm glad that I didn't have to buy your friendship because I had nothing worth buying. I had like such bad print quality back then. I really did.
I still have your prints in my stairway. Do you know that? I have them proudly displayed.
All right, so let's rip those up. I'll ship you some new ones. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Just get rid of them. Burn them.
Yeah, right. Those are precious. Those are the original intact prints that admittedly I like sticky tacked to the wall. Oh, thank you, Zad, he says, thank you both for being so big of a motivation for us. Oh, I forgot to
Oh,
mention, any donations that I get on the stream, Bab, I'm going to forward to you. So if anyone donates on the stream, just know it's not coming to me. And usually when I get a donation, I ring this big ugly cowbell. Eventually, I want to get it hanging so I can like just slap it midstream. So yeah, I
oh
will
God, I'm
Venmo you
so.
later. So yeah, if
Oh, that's
anyone
pretty
wants to
adorable.
donate money to Babs, I will be forwarding it to her. And you can check in with her so I'm not lying and I'm not like just profiting off of having Babs on the stream. Okay, anyways though, I feel like me and we can kiki for a while, so let's move on. Okay, so I know we mentioned this a little bit before the stream, but what piece defined your growth and progress from seeing yourself as more of an amateur artist to more of a professional one? So at what point did you kind of notice, wow, I think I've gotten better?
Oh God, a lot of pieces. I feel like every single piece I make, I see improvement, and I feel like all of my old work. I see. This is why I shouldn't have kids, because I would mess up on the first child, and then I would have another child, and I would raise it better, and then I'd be like, I don't even want to look at my first child. You're a mistake. Just kidding. I wouldn't. I won't have kids, so it won't be an issue.
Oh, I love this. This is golden.
I probably shouldn't have said that. Okay, I'm sorry if I offended any parents out there.
Babs, you got another
For
one.
any first kids.
Simon says, because you have a snake, he donated $10.
Oh my god, my ball python will be so indifferent, actually.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to bell
He's a
him right
good boy,
here.
though.
He's a very good boy. I mean, I barely saw him because he's very content just being on his own.
Yes. I've always heard that a happy ball python is a hidden ball python.
Oh.
So I would say that my ball python's fairly happy because he hides like the majority of the day. Until the day he either gets hungry or does his poop dance. Those are the only times he comes out.
Okay. I literally was about to ask you, could you replicate the poop dance? I'm like, well, I don't need you squirming on the floor. People are going to be like, what did Tim ask her to do?
He shimmies up his tank. He'll go like, shimmy, 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 shimmy. And that's the poop dance.
Oh, God. That's great. That's so good. Okay, so then you feel like you don't have one piece that really set you over the feeling like you're an amateur artist or someone that doesn't feel very professional to being more professional.
Well, if I'm honest with you, Tim, I feel like I just it's not there yet.
Oh, nope, we're cutting you off. No, you're definitely professional. Get out of here. I'm not even accepting that.
Imposter syndrome. It's normal. I'm normal.
You know what? That is true, though. And I would say most of the artists that I'm friends with, I mean, even I've dealt with that too, is imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you're accredited or you don't feel like you're worthy of receiving any type of praise or your art is good enough. So that is true. I shouldn't just disregard that. But because I think I look at your work and it's, to me, you're so good. It's like I don't want to hear you talk bad about your work. Which actually or you go.
Oh no, sorry.
No. All you. The floor is yours.
Okay. What was I gonna say?
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So I feel like maybe I just have really high standards, but I feel like I won't feel that until I make those pieces that like you see in the nomination section of Spectrum Fantastic Art Live. You know, like those big phenomenal pieces with the just perfect compositions and amazing color palettes and like great anatomy, like everything's just like so good. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like when I look at my work, it's not quite there yet. I feel like I'm getting close, but it's not Spectrum level yet, you know?
I mean, I definitely think you're there, but I totally agree with you on getting a nomination for Spectrum. To me would be, I feel I created something that was worth the respect of the community that I feel is like a high tier level of grading.
Yeah.
Which I know we shouldn't. Then there's always that argument of, art shouldn't be compared in that way or blah, 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 blah. But I do think they're getting recognition from peers that you admire and look up to. I feel there is substance behind that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that I want a Spectrum nomination, although it would be nice. But even just like looking at my art and being able to imagine it next to those other pieces and not sticking out like a terrible sore thumb, I feel like that's like when I'll know. And maybe that's a good thing, Tim, because I do hear like a lot of people talk about how like if you're always hungry, then you're always going to want to be better.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a good thing that I'm always dissatisfied at all of my terrible art children. All of you.
Well, I shouldn't even be arguing against it, because even with my art, when I finish it, it literally goes in my closet. I never see it. I never like take it out to look at it again. I'm already over it. As soon as I finish, I'm already over it. I'm like ready to start the next thing. I could care less, which I know that sounds horrible, but I do feel that way, where you should always stay hungry because that pushes you to be better. But apparently in the comments, Luvami Art says, then there is a meta imposter syndrome when you think you're not even good enough to have imposter syndrome. So things that I'm learning on the stream. You're right, I'm going to close the door really quick.
That's really depressing. I didn't catch your name, whoever asked that, but I hope that's not how you feel.
Oh, Luva's great. Luva, you're good. Oh yeah, where's my list here? So then, moving on. This is actually a good follow-up to that is, how do you hope people see your work?
Oh, yeah. I feel like that all kind of... I mean, I think the emotion that I try to capture the most with my work, the best way for me to describe it is the part in a movie before the jump scare. I could give...
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, like I could care less about the jump scare itself. I like the tension before the jump scare, that quiet, the unsettling quiet, the calm before the storm sort of thing, that like sensation that something's wrong and you know it's coming, but it's so quiet and all you can think about is how something's going to attack you or hurt you or whatever. That's like the feeling that I like capturing with my art, and if that comes across to people, not that I want people to feel like they're going to be attacked, but I like that unsettling, unnerving sense of quiet, because I feel like the adrenaline rush that evokes is, I don't know, there's something so visceral about it. And I don't necessarily like jump scares, but I like the feeling that they give you if you sense that something's coming.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's honestly one of the best ways I've ever heard someone describe their art. That was phenomenal. Okay, so now getting to something I think a lot of us are struggling with, being artists and having it be a financial business as well. How do you balance the dual life of running a business and creating without monetary intention that art is purely for yourself? So how do you balance that?
Oh my God, barely. Barely. I struggle so hard. I mean, I'm trying to get better at it. I feel like I'm finally at a point where I consider myself to be a business person in a sense. Like I know how to do my taxes and stuff like that. Like I know, going to a convention and doing the sales tax stuff and I have a Square reader that connects to my phone. That makes me feel real business. So I feel like the balance is just something that kind of happens. It's like it's a symptom of being a full-time artist. And I think you're forced to learn it. And whether or not you learn it is what makes you succeed or not, because not all artists are built for that. I mean, that's why galleries exist, because they do the heavy work for you. If you want to be an artist and not worry about any of the labor of running a business, be a gallery artist so they can do it for you. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of good advice with that because I feel like I still struggle a lot with it myself. Because it is something it doesn't come naturally to me, but I'm learning.
It's a weird balancing act because I'm sure maybe you felt this too. Once you start doing conventions, I started like basically making art that would fit the standard size that I make my prints on. And then I realized I was catering my work to be sold then as prints essentially. And it didn't really bother me that much until like last year. And that's why I'm doing this 5 foot drawing now. But I wanted to break a little away from that. But I do feel like you have to have an agreement between your artistic side and your business side. Because if you want to live a happy life, I feel that having financial, backing and a safety net is comforting. And then often that can allow you to create work that feels more genuine and pure. So I do feel like they do correspond to each other if you do it right.
Yeah. It's a good way of putting it.
But it is weird sometimes where when I first started doing more pencil work, I I drew things that I thought would just sell well. Not a lot, but I have to admit I did do a fox specifically because I knew that that would sell well at anime cons. And now I've only done 1 or 2 pieces that I call playing the game, but it feels so much better when you create a piece from your heart and then it gets a reaction from people that feels more intimate, you know. Okay, where was I here? This one's, I kind of want to know this one too. So how do you overcome any art blocks that come your way?
So I feel like with me, the majority of my art block actually comes from burnout. So and especially with like the craziness going on in the world today, I feel like I have to allow myself to breathe and to experience life and get inspired through life naturally, not force it. And then I can go back into a creative mode. I can't just like plow through it like I know a lot of artists can. I have to like really gently, because my art, I feel like, I mean, this makes me sound like so, but my art is so personal.
That's true.
It has a lot to do with just like how I feel, man. And so like, I feel like I just have to allow myself to experience life naturally. And from that, it usually kind of helps me get back into the rhythm of creating. I don't know. I'm sure there's a better way of describing that, but...
Oh, I mean, that totally makes sense where I do feel really good artists or artists that I can kind of sense who they are, definitely pull from their own experiences and then inject it in their work. That's why I always tell people that come to my stream that are younger artists that as much as it is good to have a creative prowess and a technical merit to their work, I think the thing that marriages and glues them together to make a great piece is when someone injects their own personal either opinion or attributes or taste, whatever it might be, and that's what makes it special. So yeah, I think art block is usually, at least in my case, I feel, is when I'm creating work that doesn't feel special. That's when I need to do work for myself again, rather than like doing it for the wrong stigma. Okay. Oh, okay. How has art defined who you've become? Who Babs is now?
I mean, just everything. I feel like everything about me has some backing in the arts because that's just like, it's the only thing that I feel confidently good at, you know? Even though I have imposter syndrome, so it's like, but it's the only thing that I can make something and be proud of it for even just a few hours, you know? And it's one of those things where like I've been rewarded socially. So like when I was in high school, I would draw a lot. I was a weird kid. I was pretty quiet, but like I would draw and then people would see me drawing and be like, that's cool, bro. Want to hang out? And you know, it was like a really easy way to like be able to show people who I am without having to like try too hard, I guess, because I am naturally a really awkward person. So like being able to communicate who I am without going through like the awkward stages of communication and like failing to express myself, I feel like that's art. And that's why it defines me, because it's just an easy way for people to know who I am.
I totally agree with that. And especially the statement about how it's rewarding for a short period, not a very long period, but it does give you that, oh, I'm doing something, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's very temporary, though. It's fleeting, you know?
Yeah.
But yet, it's like
hunger.
I'm addicted to it. Okay. I like that, Babs. I like that. Oh, here's one. Okay. What is the best advice to an artist just starting out and to an artist struggling with where they are at? So, dual question. So, someone just getting into art and then someone that maybe has been in art for a little while but feels either stuck or that they're not progressing.
I would say honesty. Be honest with yourself. So I've also gone through phases where, like, especially when I'm real desperate for money, that I'll draw things just for the sake of people buying them because, oh my God, I need to pay my rent. And I think honesty is really just about asking yourself whether or not you're doing this because you love doing it or because you want other people to love it. And you can do things to make other people happy, but when it comes to art, you have to be really honest about it. Because doing things for other people and never allowing yourself to have it just for yourself is super draining, and it's a job. And the second that you turn a hobby into a job is when it gets really complicated, because hobbies are really important. I'm always going to stress this. Hobbies are super important for mental health. And the second you turn your hobby into a job, you're compromising your mental health. So you have to be really honest with yourself about that.
That's a really good way to put it. I think
that's probably the best advice I could give.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna tell some people that, because I think it is a weird balancing act where I want to turn what I love into a career, but then there is some sacrifice. But if you, like what you said, if you stay true to it and you're still honest about what you're creating or whatever the hobby is, usually that'll pull you through. But if you can tell you're doing it for the wrong reasons, I would say don't use it as a monetary gain anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of leads into our next question, which is, what advice would you give about being authentic in your work?
So I think with me, I usually just shut out the outside world because I am very introverted naturally. It's just how I am. I go into my own little world and I just try to please myself in a sense. Like when I'm creating a piece, I like to think about, well, like there's an empty wall over there. What do I want to fill it with? Like, what would I be proud of hanging on that wall? You know? And I think it's also good to kind of explore emotions that you're not so proud of. I think that's where a lot of my work comes from emotions that we try to like bury and forget about. I think it's really important to kind of address them, especially through art, because art can be so therapeutic. And when you kind of force yourself to work through a piece about those traumas, you're also kind of forcing yourself to work through those traumas in themselves. And it kind of creates a piece that a lot of people can feel a connection to, because you know, everybody has traumas. Like everybody has stuff that like keeps them up at night and makes them uncomfortable and makes them feel like less human or whatever. So I feel like really exploring aspects about yourself that you're not necessarily proud of can actually be really important for the kind of art that I make anyway.
Yeah. No, I definitely would agree with that. I feel like the best pieces in terms of some of the ones that I sell are the ones where people connect with it on more of a personal level, especially if you tell them the story behind it. And if they connect to that story, I mean, you just built a bridge to another person. And I feel like, you know, there's that connection established and they can understand you a little bit better than you might understand them a little better, even though you're strangers, you know? Very good, Babs. I like that. Oh, so someone said, Did you go get a piece off screen, and then I forgot to ask if you could show it?
Oh, yes. Yes, we did.
I
Um,
totally slipped my mind.
so this is one of my most recent pieces. I was supposed to frame it a while ago. I still
Mm.
haven't finished the varnishing though, so it's still very shiny. But it's like a moth girl. And
So
that's like one of
wonderful.
my most recent ones. And then this piece I'm working on right now, I'm actually experimenting with the vellum paper. That's kind of tricky to work with, but it gets so dark. I don't know how dark that is.
Oh wow.
And I'm really satisfied with how dark it is even before I varnished it. That's how you know it's going to be good.
Oh, it's gonna be. Will it get darker then after you varnish?
Yeah, they always get darker. That's also something to be a little careful about with varnishing. So,
Oh, it gets too dark.
It can mess up pieces. I've messed up a lot of pieces
Oh,
varnishing them.
I believe that. So
Do you
then,
varnish your pieces? I've never asked.
I do a fixative spray, but you've kind of got me interested now in varnishing. I've never done it. Is it just a spray?
I actually have a lot of different methods. So, like, I also do the Alum Williams technique where I mix like 10 parts water with 1 part acrylic matte medium. I actually have a little spray bottle of it right here.
Do you really?
So, yeah, and it's really easy to mess up pieces when you do it though, but it makes them so matte and so dark.
Oh, so
I'm
it
like
like takes
addicted
the
to it.
shine out.
Yeah, because my pieces
Oh,
get so shiny because I make them so dark.
yeah.
So I have to get really creative about how to get the shine out. And it never fully takes away the shine. That's one thing.
Okay.
It's always going to be a little shiny, but if you cut that shine by 80%, it's going to be way better.
How do you spray it so it gets a consistent, I don't know, pass rather than it be like sprinkles of water droplets?
So you have to do it a lot. That's the thing. So like this one, I've
Ah.
already sprayed it probably like 5 times and it's still not done. You have to do it so many times, but you have to wait like 20 minutes in between sprays
And you can still
because if
work on top of that?
you can work on top of it, yeah.
Oh. But continue. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. But yeah, you have to wait like really long in between sprays though, so it takes forever.
Okay. Man, I think I will try that because I do want to do more powdered graphite after I finish this card deck. I want to dive back into that world.
Yeah, I
Which,
want to do a card deck too, but I'm so slow. I'm so slow compared to you, Tim. It takes me forever to finish anything.
I mean, it's no tarot, so like a poker deck, it's basically 12 face cards, and then you could do two jokers, and usually one. I mean, that's kind of it. And then you can make like the really fancy card box and fancy aces, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I was like, no,
It's
that's
a
what
lot.
I'm doing.
I mean, I have a question for you, Timothy.
Which this is
How?
not my interview.
No, stop that. Let me
All
ask one
right, throw it
question.
at me. Throw it at me.
I want to know what your tips are for being more proficient as an artist.
Okay, you know what? I was gonna have a live stream day where people follow me for my entire workday because when I was the most proficient, I was timing myself for an hour at a time, and each hour was dedicated to a different project. So it was like last December and early January. I had about 7 different mini projects I was working on, and I literally had my iPad up, and I would write what I wanted to do the night before, so that you wake up and you can just go. And I would write next to each checkbox what each hour would be. I would set it on my desk, and then I'd have the timer on my Google, and I would just set for an hour, and I would click play. I would go to my playlist on YouTube. I would find the corresponding playlist to whatever I was working on, press play, and then I was like heavy focus. And then when the timer went off, I would stretch, I would get up, I would walk, go to the bathroom, whatever, come back, reset the timer, get a new playlist, and then I have never felt that proficient and good in my life. Because I was able to work on my comic, I was able to work on my card deck, I was able to work on that underwater 5 foot drawing and still do like YouTube editing or I was doing some freelance at the time. So I had all these different back burner projects but it was becoming overwhelming when I didn't time myself. But when I found that I timed myself, it was really easy to be, even on a drawing I didn't necessarily want to do, it'd be like, okay, just give it an hour. And if you can just put an hour, then you're done. You can drop it. You don't have to touch it for another day. So that was the best time I've had being proficient.
Consider it stolen.
I mean, someone gave that idea to me, so it's not even my own. But what really helps is the idea of, okay, I can do this for an hour. Because sometimes if you have a project you don't want to work on, I dilly-dally. I'll have Netflix on in the background. I'll kind of pay attention to the drawing. I'll not really. But when I was timing myself, I had this sense of urgency of like, I need to know I can only focus on this. I only have an hour, you know? And it really kicked my butt. So I'm hoping to get back into that cycle after this poker deck's done, because I made that a priority, unfortunately. So now everything else has taken the back burner, and I only have one thing cooking at the moment. So
that's a lot of...
What?
It's a lot of different cards to be cooking, Timothy.
I mean, thankfully, I only have 4 more. I finished my Jack of Clubs this morning. And actually last night when I was listening to the playlist you sent me to.
Oh, you're so fast.
Do you want to share my...
I cry.
Do you share my little...
It's so... Oh, God. It's beautifully rendered.
The card deck has definitely been interesting, though. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where I'm not 100% satisfied with them, because I do feel there is a sense of this is a monetary item. So I don't feel the best making them, and I know I shouldn't feel that way because it's, a way to sustain your way of living and blah, blah, blah. But I did feel that quite a bit with 2 of the cards for sure. I was like, I just feel like I am checking in for the day rather than it being a personal adventure into this graphite world that I'm creating. But thankfully, I've been kind of finding that again and making it fun to draw again. Because when you're not having fun doing your art, usually the pieces that you create aren't going to be very good, or at least in the cases I've done.
Yeah, I mean, just remind yourself that you're making the deck that you want to see.
Don't say that, because then I want to go back and redo a bunch. But it's true. No. But you know what? That is true, though. No, Babs, you're right, though, because I did tell myself once I finish all of them, I'm going to be doing some pretty heavy edits on a bunch of them, because the worst feeling is selling something that you are not proud of or that you feel like is not to the standard that you would hold it to, So, yeah, I feel that. All right, switching it back to you, though. So we had a question on our Discord from Drea and says, why does Babs pursue these certain themes? What inspires them?
A morbid fascination.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a morbid fascination with that kind of stuff. It's a coping mechanism at the end of the day. Because, I was really scared of death as a child. My family's from Mexico, and I saw a lot of dead things over there whenever I would go visit family, and it really traumatized me as a kid. So I feel like the fascination stemmed from fear. And from there, it just became a coping mechanism where I forced myself to confront these things, and it kind of helped me get over them, because once they're on a sheet of paper, they can't hurt you anymore. They're not a part of you. They're out in the world outside of you, if that makes sense.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. And then the follow-up to that from Drea was, what is a dream project of yours that you'd like to eventually make? Moving on. I mean, I know what it is.
I really like tote bags. No, I'm sorry. That was...
Yeah, I mean, I think you could totally make a tote bag. You could totally make a tote bag.
Actually, if I were to think of a real dream project, it would probably be illustrating either a Grimm's fairy tale book or Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, maybe doing a revamp of that, because everybody always tells me that my art looks like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, even though I didn't grow up with it as a kid, which makes me kind of bummed.
Oh, yeah. I would have totally
I've
guessed you
read
would have.
some of them now. They're great.
I guess follow-up question to that. Would you write your own horror stories to then illustrate in the same vein of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
So that's an interesting question because I do write. I write a lot. But going back to how hobbies are important, writing's my hobby. I'm not sure if I'm ready to monetize it.
Good answer. Good answer. Okay, so now we had some ones from Instagram that I was given. So this one was from estella.jpg. Is there any way you draw hair realistically or any tips on drawing hair?
Oh man, I feel like I always stumble across hair whenever I draw it. It's so like, I mean, the way I work, it's always just like I subtract with my kneaded eraser, the powdered graphite, and then I go back in with a mechanical pencil and detail it. So for tips and tricks on that, it's more of just like allowing the graphite to do what it wants to do, and that'll make the hair look more interesting than it does in the photograph reference that you're using. Just don't fight with your medium, work with your medium.
And I feel like looking at
focus.
Or you go.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, all your floor is yours.
I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this.
What? No, you're doing amazing. Are you kidding?
Yeah, don't focus on like the photorealism. Just focus on making it look good on the paper, even if it doesn't look super photorealistic.
Yes. Yep. Because I was about to add that when I look at the way you do hair, it has a very wavy, flowy look. And it's not like you're drawing every individual strand of hair, but it creates a shape that implies the look of hair and the texture and flow of hair. Because I think when people try to draw hair, they think realistically, so they're drawing it like strands. And I've always found that shaping it out is way better to give the look of hair rather than trying to actually draw every strand. Okay, this one's from babybear_D. Do you want to draw out of your style or atmosphere sometimes?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. But I don't show it online because, once again, it's like that hobby thing that I was telling you guys about. It's like I separate the work that I do as my job from the work that I do for fun. And I do show it to my patrons sometimes. So if you become a patron, there's a sketchbook reward tier, and you get to see like a lot of the art styles I do outside of this, which is actually a lot of character design because I do like writing. But yeah, I tend to keep that stuff to myself because I feel like, I'm sure you feel this a lot, Tim, where we kind of trap ourselves in this whole Western capitalistic market where we want to monetize every single little thing we do. And I'm trying to go away from that because I hate it and I don't want to be a part of it. So I actually do hide a lot of the work that I do because it's mine and nobody else's.
That's probably the toughest battle I fight now is, I mean, even with the 7 projects I was talking about working on, I mean, all of them have somewhat of a business strategy behind it. And it's not that I'm invested in the art, but it's definitely, there's a purpose for it. And I got to get back to the purpose being, it's just for myself. So every now and then I catch myself where I'll do a piece. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to make this a print. I'm not going to do anything. I don't even think it would do well as a print, but it does well for my soul. So I definitely get that. I'm almost imagining, though, you have like a bunch of Smarties candy color palette paintings that you never show anyone, and only like your Patreons can see it. Oh, that's cute. They linked it in the comments. Sometimes. You do what?
I do get a little colorful sometimes.
You're so colorful. Oh, this one's a good one. Anna Create says, what's your favorite thing to draw?
Skulls.
I was going to guess it. I was like, I kind of want to take a guess, but I'm going to let you answer.
And it's hard not to draw skulls. And I have to remind myself that my art can't just be skulls.
Then you know what? I'm going to say a follow-up. What's your least favorite thing to draw? Like if you got a freelance project where you were like, this is the dread of my being, the idea of starting this.
Cars.
Yep. That's a good one. I would say like a sci-fi space station with spaceships.
Yeah, I think sci-fi anything for me. Aside from aliens, sci-fi anything, like especially sci-fi technology, nope. Don't want to do it.
Totally agree. Smoky Toon Raccoon says, do you sketch your stuff before you draw it?
Sometimes. And sometimes I just say, heck it, and I just attack a sheet of paper. Just like that. That's how it goes. Just me punching a sheet of paper until a drawing appears.
I mean, speaking of punching paper, did you ever watch the documentary about the old boxer cutie that literally puts paint on boxing gloves and then he'll punch a canvas?
I saw a man doing that in a commercial. I guess that's who that is.
Yeah, was it an older short guy? Yep, yeah, that was him. I thought that was just funny. Anyways, Ricardo Martinez says, how do you come up with ideas for your work? I mean, I know you kind of mentioned this before, but maybe talk about one specifically that you've done. Or do you have one on hand that maybe you could talk about?
So I think when it comes to coming up with ideas, visual reference is really good for that. Like Pinterest.
Yeah.
Do y'all have Pinterest?
Always have Pinterest.
I just love going through Pinterest and searching whatever is enticing me at the moment. Like yesterday, I woke up with an insatiable craving to draw teeth. So I just searched teeth on Pinterest for like an hour.
Insatiable craving for teeth. But no, you're totally right. Like the Pinterest main feed, I can scroll for so long.
Yeah. So if you're feeling stuck, I would say like going through visual reference, or even like going to, well, I know we can't do that now if you're in the United States, but like going to a bookstore and like just looking through picture books. I mean, that's visual reference is great. Music's really good for that too. Movies are really good for that. Anything that you can cram into your mind hole, I would say is really good for coming up with ideas. Dreams are good for ideas. If you get inspired by a dream, don't be nervous to put it down on a sheet of paper.
It's have you ever heard of I got trapped in Pinterest the other day when I was in the deep hole of just like clicking and clicking, and it takes you to another rabbit hole, blah blah. I found that people will take objects, and a lot of them are like antique, whatever they might be, and they'll turn them into characters. So they'll have like a porcelain ring or like a necklace that's really gaudy, and then they'll make a character based on either the shapes or the colors or the patterning. I'm like, that is amazing. So I'm going to try to do one of those in the coming weeks. But that was totally just scrolling on Pinterest, and then you never know what's going to ignite the like inspiration in your head, and then it'll like create something.
It's a cool idea. Although I gotta say, Tim, this is kind of random, but you always describe your work as gaudy, and I don't like that. Can you stop that?
It's a defense mechanism. I do it so that people can't insult it right away.
I feel that.
Mind you, there's elements of gaudy that I just am so fascinated with, especially on the runway. When I look at a fashion designer and they just throw everything on, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Moschino. I don't know how to say it, but usually it's just like a giant pair of scissors that someone's walking, with the scissors like strapped to them, and for some reason that fascinates me. I love weird, gaudy things. I think I do filter it when I do my own art. I usually try to make it look a little, like but I'm so attracted to when people go big, ugly, gaudy. I think it's beyond fascinating. One day, just you wait. You say it now, but my art's gonna get worse and worse. I'm just gonna draw people with like giant objects glued to their body.
When you say your art's getting worse and worse, I don't like that either, Tim.
Or worse in the sense that it's gonna be like, oh wow, he's going that direction, huh?
You know what, Tim? Your self-deprecating stuff, canceled. Canceled. You're canceled.
Canceled. I'm ending my subscription. HumGD says, as an artist, what do you believe are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
So I'd say my strength is rendering and my weakness is line work, which is why I render so much. So you can't see my lines.
I enjoy rendering more than the line phase too. I totally get that. Oh, and actually, this next question goes back to something you mentioned before. So maybe if you could explain it to people that might not know what this means, but they say, do you use subtraction method in your style?
Yes. That's like a good chunk of my style, I would say. So like I just started this thing where like I literally just put the powdered graphite on there. And that's how I start all of my pieces. I tape them down, I put the powdered graphite on there, and then I'll like lightly sketch my drawing, and then I'll go in there with an eraser and I'll erase out all of the shapes and like get the composition going. So it's a lot of working on negatives.
Yeah. I remember the first time I learned how to do subtraction method, and it like blew my mind. Because if, like when you were saying, you have a pretty neutral base, you can push and pull highlights so easily using an eraser rather than a pencil.
Yeah.
But
so the eraser becomes just as important as the pencils, and I really like that.
I was just about to say that because I first learned this when I did digital work, and the subtraction method is really big for people that draw giant shapes, and then they'll take their eraser and refine the edges, and they called it the subtraction method. And it like blew my mind. I was like, oh, you don't have to add things to create; you can take away things to create, which is such a weird concept to think about. Okay, we got through the Instagram questions and my normal set. So now we're going to get into the community questions of people that are here. So if you have any questions for Babs, just put @Vonnart. I'm trying to write them down, so I have a few from earlier, but we will get into this live Q&A part. So are you ready, Babs? Strap in. And they cannot even just be related to art. If you want to ask Babs very personal, deep, kind of intrusive questions, now's your time. Just
Thanks.
kidding. I was like, wow, I'm so glad I agreed to this. Wow. So Ella says, when did you realize that this was the kind of art you wanted to make? And this was in reference to the more dark, the spooky, when you described your stuff as right before a jump scare.
So, oh God, for a long time. I mean, you guys saw my old work. I was real edgy back in the day. I like doing like dark stuff and gore, and I've always been fascinated with that kind of stuff. So like it was a decision really early on that I wanted to go down like a more dark, surreal path with my art. And I don't even necessarily know if it was like a decision, like if in my mind I was like, all right, I gotta choose a path, this is the one I'm going down. I think it just happened naturally. Like that's just the most honest form of my art, and that's what I pursued.
Yeah, I think that's a very organic path that I would say most artists take. And usually what you're kind of attracted to, your art usually lends itself to that. Well, if you hold up, my cat is sneezing up a storm right now. Astrid, what's wrong? Oh,
actually,
no. She's licking her nose now.
Oh.
Are you okay, baby?
Oh.
Are you okay?
Those little paws.
I'm going to open the door for her, though, so she can escape into the wild.
Oh, my cute girl.
Okay,
all right.
Go, Astrid. Hey, Josh, Astrid's sneezing really bad if you want to claim her. This poor cat. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We got a lot here. Oh, I hope you're ready.
No. But, I'll lie to myself.
Jim N says, what are some artists that are most unlike your own personal style that you admire?
Huh.
Right, that's an interesting one.
Oh, wow. It's kind of putting me on the spot. I mean, I really like character design, so I like a lot of character artists, but because I'm a terrible human being, I can't name them off the top of my head. I guess... oh, God. Least like my art. Okay. Well, I mean, I really like Naomi's work.
Naomi Van
She
Doren.
has nothing to do with my style. but I really appreciate the way she works digitally with like watercolor textures. I think it's gorgeous.
I'm going to link her Instagram in the chat really quick. I totally agree. It's very bright, colorful, fun, happy. Things that I normally wouldn't
from my
say.
Art. But it's very, like, she just closed a Kickstarter for her book. Mm-hmm. And it's so, I mean, I'm getting a book.
Me too.
I'm pretty excited. So, it's very pleasing.
Okay. This one's from Whitney. Says, hi, as a creative person, do you think as artists we should be making more art to influence people to have a more friendly relationship with the environment?
I think it depends on what you personally want to pursue with your art. I don't think it's fair to pressure all artists to do that with their art because art can be used for so many different things. But, you know, I am actually very interested in the world and living on it. So, I mean, actually, we talked about this, didn't we, Timothy? Yeah. That we wanted to do charity pieces. I'm not sure if I want to do an ocean piece or a forest piece. It depends on what charity I'll donate to. But, I mean, I think if that's something you're passionate about, then 100% do it. And if it's something that doesn't really interest you, then I wouldn't feel too bad about it. There's plenty of other things that you can do with your art that will have a positive impact on people.
Oh, man, I have so many questions for you and follow-ups to that because I think of how many different passions you can have. Even what you just said, there's like you can do a piece for the environment for the forest or for the ocean. Two very separate entities, but you could have someone really passionate about the ocean and they might be like, why aren't all artists doing piece about saving the ocean? But then there's one about the forest. There could be one about not using plastic as much. There could be, you know, there's so many different passions. The way I look at it is find the ones that you are most in tune with and like go heavy in that direction because there will be other artists going in the other directions that even if you care about a little, there will be other people that will care about that a lot. And as long as you're putting your best foot forward on the things you care about most, you can usually rest assured that there will be other people, or I'm very optimistic, but I assume other people will take on things that you cannot. So yeah, but if we ever did do another collab, Babs, I would love to do a water one and do like a ocean charity piece. I'm just already imagining this like ghost fish overlaying like a giant ocean scene. Like
I want to do a lighthouse.
Oh, that'd be even better.
I think about that piece a lot because I do want to do it, but I can't decide. Maybe I'll just do both forest and ocean. I don't even know.
Definitely do both.
Yeah.
I mean, something I'll even talk to you after, but I want to start doing more collabs with people. I think the best way to do it now during quarantine is to like ship it and only work on an hour back and forth. Or like some easy way where it's the most cost efficient though too, because you don't want to be shipping crazy amounts. Anyway.
Actually, sorry.
No, you go.
What I think would be cool that we could do, you and me.
Yeah.
You could do the line art and I will do the rendering. Or I could do the line art and you could do the rendering.
I could do that. Because, I mean, as much as line art's not my favorite, I do find I'm pretty good at keeping it pretty clean and tight. So I could give you a pretty clean line art, and then you could just punch it. That's a good idea. I might take you up on that offer, Babs. Just wait, you're going to get a ghost fish in the mail. This one from Jim Hummel says, what art from other mediums do you identify with your own work the most? That being movies, books, TV, etc.
I would probably say for me, the medium outside of art that inspires me the most is music. And I have weird music tastes. I would say that some of the music I would listen to should be categorized more as ambient noise more than actual sound music. But like I get really inspired by that because I don't know, I like using my imagination. And when you have music going, you can use your imagination and make your own little movie in your head, and it's just fun.
For those of you who don't know, Babs has excellent taste in music by my standards. I would definitely say so. Okay.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Of course. I'm only here to stroke egos.
Consider me stroking rock hard.
We're going to have to edit that line off the stream. Consider
I'm
me
sorry.
stroked. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm leaving that. Okay. This one's from Luvami Art. It says, my master of the Drawing Academy usually says there are 3 ways of making art. Addition, subtraction, and deformation. And I pretty agree. All pieces have those elements. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not a question. That was just kind of agreeing with what you said.
Me too.
This one's from Fem. Fem is one of our wonderful followers. She's almost on every stream. She's wonderful. And they ask, you have a very macabre style, but have a very bubbly personality. Do you ever get people at your booth being visibly surprised?
I mean,
She puts on a
I
pretty
feel like
good face at cons.
artists are more surprised by my personality than the general public, but I think it's because when people come up to my booth, they usually assume I'm just a salesman and I'm not the actual artist.
Oh.
Maybe, I don't know. But like people that buy my art, they're never surprised by the way I act. But artists are.
Wait, because I was surprised, but I guess I'm an artist. You're right.
I guess maybe it has to do with like, because I know me personally, when I see art that I really like, and then I look at the artist that does it, I'm like, I'll never be that cool.
Oh my!
Talk to them.
Get out of it. No self-deprecation, remember?
You started it.
Well, when I went up to your booth, I mean, you had such like a Morticia, and it was like very. You have like skulls on your booth. You're wearing like fancy, decadent things, and I'm like, oh, this person, they are too cool for my realm of thinking, and they're gonna put a hex on me if I mess up this conversation.
Okay, yeah. That is one thing that I have been accused of knowing hexes. I don't know anything about that.
Well, none that you would admit on live stream. No, I mean, if you were a witch, to me, you wouldn't be a black, like you wouldn't be a hexy witch. Well,
no, I feel like I would be way too scared to put a hex on someone, and then they would find out, and I would just like, it would be like that feeling you have when you're going to bed at night and you remember something embarrassing you did in the 3rd grade.
Yes.
It would be like me. Like I'd stay up thinking about the hex I put on somebody, and like, what if they find out? What if they're mad at me?
I mean,
I'm such a weenie. I'm really such a weenie on the inside.
Well, gross. I think.
Shut up, Tim.
I think thinking about you as a witch, like in a fantasy world, you'd be the witch that kind of like what you say is very secluded, but you would summon these little. They look kind of creepy and scary, but they're really playful and energetic. Like it might be a mini horse that is just completely made of bones, and they're kind of scary to look like. They have like bright, shiny eyes. They look scary, but they're actually really awesome, like playful. Like that would be the kind of witch I would imagine you would be. Just summon like random weird looking things that are actually really playful.
Well, if you were a warlock, I could definitely imagine you as a ringleader in a circus. It would be so good.
Oh, I love that idea. I've always been very entranced by like the carnival era circus aesthetic. Because
you would be.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel as artists, a lot of the times we're just entertainers. I feel, how did Britney Spears put it? There's 2 types of people in this world: those that are entertained and those that entertain and those that are entertained. And I think about that when I do Instagram because I'm trying to entertain people just in this visual medium that I call pencil drawing. And I think that's why I'm so attracted to carnival and circus, especially the ringleader stuff, is because they're putting on a show and they want to give people a good time and be happy. And obviously there's a lot of dark stuff behind the curtains of a circus. That's why I'm so entranced by it. I think it's so fascinating.
Child labor and animal abuse. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't look behind that curtain.
The best. Okay.
Just kidding. I just ruined that.
Oh, I know. Like the real circus and carnival stuff, it is bad. Like whenever I watch the ones about elephants.
When it's in movies and all those animals are CGI, that's like...
Oh, yeah.
Give me more of that.
Yes. Eric says, if you drew a superhero, what would you draw? It can be one you know or one that you make up.
Wow,
I bet you've
superheroes
never
are
been asked to draw a superhero before.
I have, because I used to do commissions like at Comic Cons. Obviously, the people that would come up to me to ask for commissions would be like, draw the Dread Man from the Batman. I don't know. I forget the names of them.
Who's
I used to read comics. I really liked like way back in middle school. I really liked like X-Men and Batman, but I got so out of it, and now I can't even remember half of the stuff that I read. But I guess if I had to choose, I'd probably just go back to my little weeb roots and draw a Nightcrawler or something.
Oh. I mean, Nightcrawler was, in my opinion, the best X-Men, next to Mystique.
Yeah, Mystique was also really cool.
But you want to hear... Or you go.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, even though she just was everybody's surprise mother ever, she's fine.
Wait, what do you mean surprise mother?
Well, like, in the comics, and, like, even in some of the TV shows, they'd always be like, oh, it turns out that Mystique was Rogue's mother all along, or, like, something.
Yes. No, I know what you mean, yeah. Do you want to hear my favorite, like, not only superhero, I'm putting in, like, the entire universe of superhero stuff. Do you want to know who's my favorite?
Yes.
So it's from Batman Returns, the Penguin. By far, my favorite superhero anything is the Penguin.
So I just rewatched that movie, and I feel... Okay, so, like, that movie is bad, right? Like, the writing's pretty bad.
9 out of 10.
Pretty bad. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy it. I love that movie. I just rewatched it on my own terms, but it's bad writing, bad pacing. But, like, you've got to admit, Tim Burton nails that aesthetic. And they got so good on the casting. Like, there's so many good parts of that movie that it makes me mad that they didn't write it better and pace it better. Like, that movie should have been longer, first off. I know that's like, because, like, I feel like they had so many scenes where, like, if there was build-up, those scenes would have been way better. Like, the scene where Selena gets caught, like, sneaking through what's-his-name's paperwork, and she finds out that the plant is just, like, a front. And, like, that just came out of nowhere. Like, that's just, like, I decided to go to the office and look through this paperwork for no reason, and also tell you the same night that I found it.
Yeah. Whoops. They definitely should have edited that way more, but I could not agree with you on Tim Burton. Not only did he own the aesthetic, I think that's how superhero movies should be presented. Because I can't take any of the new ones seriously at all, and they try to present themselves seriously. And I'm definitely unpopular opinion here, but I just do not enjoy the superhero movies of the last 10 years, or like 15 years, really. I miss the days where it was super over-the-top, comical. There was still death and things were serious, but then it was balanced by this very over-the-top, comical, comic book-looking way of presenting a story. I mean, the penguin coming out of the sewer or in the ballroom on a duck, that would never happen, obviously, realistically, but in a comic world, that could. Where I think they've adjusted it to be more like a real world setting and aesthetic, but I miss when it was this, Gotham was this dark, weird place where there were carnies in the sewers and there were penguins running around. That's why specifically Batman Returns, I think, is the best superhero movie. And when the penguin dies, I actually felt really sad and equally frightened.
I do love that movie. I will say that I don't agree with all the writing choices, but, if they had just, like, really narrowed in that pacing, I would agree with you. It would be the best super movie ever to me, because I do think that that's what Gotham should be. Aesthetically, that is the Gotham that I imagined when I would read the comics.
Totally
like,
agree. That
sort of weird, whimsical, Gothic, because Gotham is supposed to be Gothic.
Yep.
And I feel like in the new movies, they make it more like grunge. Like, ooh, we're all grunge, gutter punks, ooh.
Like the bad side of a city.
Yeah, which is, like, great, but, like, if I want to see grunge, I can just go to the real New York. Like, it's not... And I'm not even insulting. I used to live in New York, so New Yorkers, You have to agree, it's not the cleanest city.
Yep, I totally agree with that. And I think on top of it, Danny Elfman's score throughout, I still listen to it sometimes in the background. But I don't know if you listen to this too. The Edward Scissorhands soundtrack, I think, is the best, like, gothic yet hopeful sounding soundtrack I've ever heard.
Oh, I love Danny Elfman. I think he's like the best music composer ever.
That's so good.
Oh my god, he's just done so many movies with like great music scores. I mean, but I agree with that. It is very like hopeful, but like with subtle, sinister vibes, which I feel like is so perfect for a movie like Edward Scissorhands, because it was a man with scissors for hands.
Mm-hmm. I mean, anything Danny touches, I feel it has this hopeful, but then sometimes it'll be very quirky with like the low trumpets and you know, but then it'll be matched by these violin strings that are just flowy and elegant. I love it. Anyways,
yeah,
I could just like keep going, but unless you had something to add on.
Whole discussion on music. Like, get me started on the music behind Silent Hill, and I'll go on for hours. Endlessly.
Well, follow-up question, did you like the Silent Hill movies?
I liked the first one.
Same.
I didn't watch the second one because when I saw the trailer, I was so disgusted. And it was also really upset that they made the detective a disposable character that they killed in the first act. And they made, like, I forget his name, the creepy guy that follows Heather around. They just made him a love interest. And they made him the same age. Because, like, in the third Silent Hill, there's, like, a detective and the girl, Heather, the main character that you play as. And then there's the creepy guy that's, like, a priest of the cult church. And he's, like, friends with the villain, kind of, not really. And he, like, just kind of creeps around and does creepy guy things. And I loved his character. I thought it was great. And then in the movies, I saw that they just, like, they made him, like, the same age as Heather, and they made him a love interest, and I was just, like, so not interested.
Yeah, no.
But I thought the first one had its good qualities. I definitely do. It wasn't... Once again, I would say the writing gets really bad in some places, and the dialogue also gets really bad. Like, there's this one character that's, like, she's a girl that lives in the cult, and whenever you talk to her, she sounds like, all right, act like an Amish girl that doesn't know about anything. Go, action. And she just stands there, and it's not very good, but I still like it. I would call that movie my trash, for sure.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm such a film nerd. I was watching a lot of behind the scenes of Silent Hill and, like, why they were made, blah, blah, blah. And there was apparently a really passion behind the first one because the director really liked Silent Hills, and he was so enthralled with the lore that he knew certain things about the villains and how they were supposed to act. And even with the nurses, apparently he hired trained ballerinas to be the nurses in the movie so that when they move, they have those very disjointed ways of, you know, moving around. Mm. But apparently with the second movie, they hired someone that would be cheaper and didn't really know the source material, and that's why it just kind of goes off the rails. And that's why the first one, people always say, the first one's at least good. You know, it might not be the best, but it's good enough.
It's definitely the best adaptation of a video game I've ever seen. Try to point out a better one, I dare you.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Which one?
Annihilation.
That's second from a video game?
Mortal Kombat? Oh, no, not Natalie Portman Annihilation.
Oh, I was like...
No. There was a Mortal Kombat movie, and then there was a sequel called Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Whew! That is a trip.
I've never even heard of that one. I had an ex that was really obsessed with, like, Mortal Kombat and the movies, but I never really dove into that world.
I would watch the first one as, like, having friends over, and you'll comment over it. That's the type of movie it is. I'm trying to think of a good video game movie off the top of my head. I think you're right, though. I mean, I was really excited when BioShock apparently was going to get adapted and Gore Verbinski was going to direct it, but it fell through. It was too expensive. One day we'll see it, though. I feel like the source material is so good. We'll see it someday. Anyways, I'm a big movie nerd, so I can keep talking. Oh, you know what? Our next question, though, is from my schwa, my beautiful boy. He's asked, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, God. My favorite movie. I feel like I go through phases.
Right now, what's your favorite movie?
Right now, my favorite movie, I don't know, probably Batman, because I just watched it. And I'm so obsessed. I'm still so obsessed with the aesthetics of that movie. Like where Selena goes through her transformation and she shatters the neon on her wall and it goes from hello there to hell here. And I was just like, yeah, so edgy. I love it. Middle school me, so into it.
I want everyone to remember Babs Webb's favorite movie is Batman Returns.
And Moulin Rouge.
Hey, now, we are not going to insult Moulin Rouge. That is still in my top 5 favorite movies ever. To me, that is a great example of gaudy. Moulin Rouge is gaudy, and I'm beyond attracted to it. Ugh. But watching it on Broadway was magical. I have to say that, though. I cried 3 times.
I would like to see that on Broadway. I feel like it would be great on Broadway. It's like made for Broadway.
Babs, I'm telling you, not only was it a theater production, but it doesn't follow the original storyline. So it's all new songs, and it's like more culturally referent or pop culture reference in like the song choices. But it's also a magic show, which you're not expecting, because there will be like set changes and things happen. You know, in the movie when they go dancing and the moon's singing and they're in the clouds. Imagine a stage where it looks like a normal room, and then things start to turn. Things are falling from the sky. Things are being like lifted and chanted out, and then smoke comes out of nowhere, like falls, and then a giant moon like turns in the background that was always, I'm telling you, magical. Please go see it on Broadway if you can, Babs. Not now, obviously, because Corona, but you know.
Oh, God. Corona, why do you got to ruin everything?
And we're definitely talking about the beer. So the next question is from Simon, says, as an artist coming up, I always feel like my art will never get to a point where I could do it full time. How do you get over that feeling and let yourself enjoy the process?
Oh, God. I forced myself into it because I was so bad at everything. Like, it was so hard for me to get a job because I would fail all of my interviews because I was so awkward and so bad at talking to people. And like, oh God. So it just got to this point where it was like, this is it. This is all I got. I got to do it. If I don't do this, like, I'm not going to eat because I'm not going to have money. Nobody wants to hire me. I'm just not job material. Oh man. So like, I don't know. I'm not the best person for advice on that because I just did it. Like, I was just like put my blinders on and was like, I'm making this happen. And it took probably like, because I started freelancing when I was around 20, when I was still in college. And then I didn't actually start making enough money to exist normally without starving or missing bills until I was like 24. So it was like a 4-year period of not doing so great.
How did you survive during those years?
I mean, just barely getting by, pretty much. Like living, because I don't know if this happened to you. I feel like, because first off, I will say this. I'm not one of those artists that has like innate talent. Like, I feel like some artists, because it's the way you perceive the world, right? That's what determines how good you are at drawing. It's how good you are at perceiving the world, how good your eyesight is at like
a critical eye.
Yeah, like that critical eye. That's what the real talent is. And I didn't really have that. Like, I had to train my eyes. So like my work wasn't very good for a long time. So it wasn't very saleable. And so I would take on literally any job that I could get. Like, I would go on, God, what was it called? This website. It was a website where you would upload your portfolio and people would look through it.
CG
and they
Hub?
would, they changed the name because it got bought out, but it was this website where you would upload your portfolio and you would apply for jobs on there, or people would come through you and they would be freelance jobs. And some of them were terrible because that website was also filled with a lot of people from foreign countries who could do the same work that you could do for much cheaper because their cost of living was a lot lower. So you would be competing for like $20 jobs, and you would just like, it was like life or death because like some of the jobs were really bad. And I remember like spending, hours on illustrations that I would only get paid like $80 for, like, so it definitely didn't start off great. I had to definitely work my way up, but it was more of just like, I told myself that this is all that I could do. It was all that I could be satisfied doing.
Yeah.
And I just did it because I am stubborn.
Was the website CG Society?
No. It was like something.
Because I know exactly what you're talking about, because I remember when this was a hot ticket for a lot of my friends back in the day, and I remember the same thing of I'm fighting for a $20 job right now.
Yeah.
Not worth it, everyone.
Not worth it, but I did it. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was really
Sometimes
bad.
you gotta do things that are definitely not worth it to survive. Fem says, really here to stroke egos today. Thank you. You guys are funny, so funny together. Perfect way to end my work week quarantined at home. Well, thank you, Fem. Ella says, Babs, do you have any advice for taking commissions? I've just started out and I have no luck at all. It's been really demotivating and it has taken a toll on my confidence in my art.
That probably goes back to like honesty. I would say like be honest about, because I feel like with me, commissions have always been that one thing that I don't actually genuinely like doing that much, but I do it because either the person that I'm doing it for has been really solid and like I want to like give them something that they can have that's more personalized because I know they'll enjoy it. And I feel like you should probably like look at the sheet that you're presenting with people that has all of your rates and your drawings on it. And if you don't have one of those sheets, then that's probably why you're not getting commissions. But look at it critically and ask yourself, like, if I were a person with limited means, would I be okay with spending money on this? And be honest with yourself about it. And if you wouldn't be okay with spending that money, then focus on ways that you would be, which is kind of harsh when I say it out loud, but I'm very harsh with myself. So if I sound harsh when I'm giving advice, I swear it's not out of malicious intent. It's just because I hate myself, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, Babs, you are just such a wonderful person. Okay, because I'm not going to divulge in the self-demotivation and... or not demotivation, self-reprimand? No, that's not it either. What was the word we were just using? Thank you. None of that. Yeah. This one is from Rachel and says, do you have a Spotify playlist that we can follow? I'd love to hear some of the music taste.
Oh, man. I don't have a Spotify because I tried getting into it and then I realized a lot of the music that I listen to isn't on Spotify because I'm just so not mainstream. So I listen to either SoundCloud or YouTube because I actually really enjoy music from like just people experimenting or like people having fun or like creatives that aren't really necessarily in a certain, like they're not in a genre. It's more of just like them allowing themselves to create in a more like authentic manner. And it's not always music that I would say like is, because like Tim, you listen to my playlist. There's some songs on there where you listen to them and you're like, that's not really a song.
But it's perfect though for drawing to. So I totally get what you mean where it won't be on Spotify, but like all these slow down reverb remixes, like they'll be on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. This one is from myself, and if you could just give a quick explanation of how do you work with powdered graphite, because I know obviously you have a tutorial that people can go find on your YouTube. There's a link below.
Yes, please.
But if you could, it's a good tutorial, guys. Go check it out. But if you could, I guess, share some advice with working with powdered graphite, because I know a lot of artists that work with graphite are probably interested in it, but they should know that it is a different beast in itself. It's not like working with a pencil.
No, it's not like working with pencil at all. In fact, I would say it's more similar to working with charcoal or even a wet medium, because it's so loose. It gets everywhere. And also, if I'm going to talk about powdered graphite, I will start off by saying that it is not something you should inhale.
Yeah.
Do not inhale it. That stuff stays in your lungs for life. Be careful when you use it. So if there's any bit of advice that I can like cement into people's heads that are interested in powdered graphite, always keep it in a separate container. Don't use it straight from the big jar that it comes in. If you spill this, you'll regret it forever.
Yeah.
Keep a small amount in a small jar. You can use paintbrushes to move it around a sheet of paper, or you can use a paper towel or a rag. And allow yourself to experiment with it before you put it on a piece of line work that you want to render. It's very easy to mess up your line work with this stuff.
Too easy.
Yeah.
I've definitely done that where I had to start a piece over because I was like, oh, I should have scanned it first. Okay, so it looks like everyone's just very thankful for you joining us today, Babs, and very happy, and you left a very good impression. But I do have one more question, I guess, to leave everyone with to end this off, is what is one piece of advice that you could give to artists during this time, these weird times that we're in?
Take advantage of the solitude, because that's the greatest gift an artist can have. And I know that's easier said than done, because for me personally, it's really hard to take advantage of the solitude when all you can think about is, wow, my career is burning in a dumpster fire and I have no idea how to stop it. But don't focus too much on that. Focus more on the fact that you're finally home alone and nobody can bother you while you draw. And if you're not home alone, then you can find that secluded space, baby. I believe in you.
Find that secluded space. But I mean, you're absolutely correct, though. I mean, this has been a weird, I don't want to say a blessing. That's a poor word choice. It's definitely made me refocus and re-strategize, which I wouldn't have done otherwise. And it's making me rethink even, like, obviously I'm working on my card deck right now, but then the projects that I want to do after, obviously I'm doing this interview with you now. This wouldn't have happened if I didn't have to be, away from cons, and I'm at home way more. So having this amount of time where I can focus on other things is new. And it's like a weird gift that I've been given of just time. And I think as artists, I think we forget that how important time is for us and to make the most of it. So yeah. So I just want to say a huge thank you, Babs. You did such a wonderful job.
No, thank you to you, Timothy, for setting this up and letting me be on here and be a weirdo and scare some of your followers.
You did the opposite of that. Come on. You're obviously such a pleasure for me to interact with. I think you're just a great person. I'm definitely going to listen to more of the music you send me. And yeah, we'll have to, you'll see a ghost fish in your mailbox sometime soon.
Yeah. And also, if I reach the amount of weird followers that it takes to do live videos, then I'm going to force you on my channel and ask you questions.
I would love to join you for an interview. I mean, honestly, this is a pleasure. And if any of you want to follow Babs, like she said, she has a YouTube channel, her Instagram, and her store are all below. Please support her. She is definitely worth your money. And yeah, any last words of wisdom that you have to offer?
I'm not really full of a lot of wisdom, so
just
I've
a
had
shrug.
The burp for like the past 5 minutes. That's about it. That's all I got.
And thank you for whoever donated. I'll Venmo you that. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming to the first ever Artist Insight, and thank you, Babs. And until next time, see you guys later. All right. Bye.